My name is John. I'm just an average real estate salesperson, still a regular employee after 15 years of service. At 35, I'm single, without a girlfriend or friends. I'm not very savvy and lack special skills. Even my junior colleagues outperform me. In a company, I've become quite a burden. That's why you can't close deals. You have to be more assertive, even pushy, to get commitments. After I finished a call with a client, my junior colleague, Kevin, said that to me. Kevin, 4 years my junior and already demonstrating great sales performance since joining the company, is rumored to be the next department head. Ah, right, I'll try that next time. You always say that, John, but you never really take anyone's advice. You've got to learn from the best. His tone was like a boss scolding a junior colleague. Well, it's always been like this, and the performance gap between Kevin and me is quite evident. Haha, sorry. I always manage to get by with a laugh. I do think Kevin has a point. But I just can't bring myself to like the idea of exploiting clients' weaknesses with aggressive tactics. It's not that it's wrong, it's just how things are done. But I've always thought that I wanted to make proposals more in line with what the client needs. And yet, here I am, getting lectured by my junior colleague because my performance doesn't back up my lofty ideals. Then, John, can we talk for a sec? It's not just my junior colleagues who lecture me, but naturally, my superiors too. After lunch, my boss, Kyle, called me out. Kyle, my supervisor and a department head 2 years my senior, has been my direct boss since I joined a company. So, it's fair to say he knows best about my lack of work performance. Earlier, you were getting lectured by Kevin again. When Kyle said that, I replied, yes, that was my response. It's embarrassing to have my boss hear about me being reprimanded by a junior colleague. Well, this is also a usual occurrence. Aren't you ashamed? Being outperformed and even admonished by someone 4 years younger. Don't you want to change, to take action? Without ambition, it's no surprise if people say you're holding us back. I'm sorry. It's not that I lack ambition. I wanted to build relationships with clients in my own way and improve my performance. That's what I used to think. But at some point, I began to resign myself to the situation. Thinking, there's no way someone like me could achieve that. I feel a sort of disappointment in myself. Still, I'm trying my best in my own way, but after 15 years without change, it's understandable if people are frustrated with me. Sorry, but has saying sorry for 15 years led to any growth? Do you even realize you're a burden? As your boss for so long. Think about my position too. If you don't have the motivation, just quit now, please, I'm begging you. Kyle, my department head, might also be getting complaints from higher-ups about my lack of progress. I can do that, I'm sorry. I'm aware that I'm not just unhelpful but actually a burden to the company. But I also lack the courage to quit and look for a new job. I don't think there's any company that would hire a 35-year-old like me with no significant achievements and low skills after 15 years as a regular employee. For such reasons, even knowing that staying might be a nuisance, I couldn't make the decision to leave. Geez. Kyle clicked his tongue and left the conference room. Then, one day, Kyle and I went to a subsidiary store for a meeting. The company, in the same industry, has a strong brand and is very dynamic, despite being a subsidiary. As a regular employee, I didn't get many opportunities like this, but today, due to a staff shortage, I got the chance. Mr. Anderson. Hello, I'm Shane, the manager here. Nice to meet you. The man who greeted me with a smile and a business card was a fresh-faced young man. Later, learning he was only 30 and already a manager impressed me. He was competent, polite to someone like me, and exuded a wonderful personality. He was the exact opposite of me, a truly dazzling presence. Most of the meeting was between Kyle and Shane, and I struggled just to follow the conversation. I felt utterly useless, wondering why I was even there. Kyle, and probably Shane too, must have sensed it. The more I thought about it, the more I sweated, making it even harder to concentrate. Just when the conversation seemed to be winding down, my work phone rang, and it was a client. When I checked with Shane if I could take the call, he said, "Of course, don't worry," so I answered immediately. The call was about changing an appointment for a contract explanation at the client's home. I responded while checking my schedule. After ending the call and about to return to the meeting, "Why did you agree to that?" Kyle, looking displeased, asked me that. Confused, I looked at him with wide eyes. You can't just keep accommodating every request from clients. If they think they can get anything they want, they'll keep calling for trivial things. That'll slow down our work and burden us. Do you understand? Even for small things, don't always accommodate the client. Run things at our pace. I've told you this so many times. Why don't you get it? That's why you're still a regular employee, inefficient as ever. In front of Shane, Kyle lectured me just like he always did. Indeed, Kyle was right in this regard. I had been told this many times. But I've always had trouble accepting this. But the clients have their own circumstances too. If it's possible to adjust for them, shouldn't we? I timidly tried to counter. But Kyle invariably responded, "Who cares about their circumstances? Our prior commitments should take precedence." In the end, I couldn't argue back and just apologized, "I'm sorry." Then Kyle's phone rang, and he hurried out of the room. That left me and Shane alone in the meeting room. Shane then broke the silence, saying, "Are you always given such guidance?" He looked genuinely surprised. And rightfully so. For a 15-year veteran like me, older than him, to still be lectured by a superior must seem strange to someone on an elite career path like Shane. I felt so embarrassed and pathetic, I couldn't face Shane. Yes, that's how it is. It's pathetic, I know, especially at 35, but somehow, I just can't get on board with that way of thinking. Maybe I'm just not cut out for sales. I understand that being efficient would make work smoother, but I always end up wanting to prioritize the clients. That's why I'm perpetually at the bottom in performance and still a regular employee. I'm sorry. I answered with a laugh, trying to hide my embarrassment. I guess I was using self-deprecation and humor to shield myself, laughing off being lectured at my age and being a burden as a regular employee. But then, Shane said something unexpected. "Don't apologize. I think that's very admirable." His words were so surprising that I must have looked quite foolish. "What?" After my bewildered reaction, Shane continued. "I'm sorry if this sounds presumptuous, but I share the same view as you, Mr. Anderson. I believe that there's nothing more important in customer service than being attentive to the client's needs." Hearing someone say this was a first for me in my 15 years of working. Really, I was so happy that I leaned forward without thinking. Really, I had a similar experience when I was a newcomer. Shane began sharing stories about his own struggles and conflicts, similar to mine, from his early days until now. Listening to his incredible journey to becoming a young manager, I felt an immense sense of joy. And gradually, I felt more encouraged. But I don't have the confidence to overcome obstacles like you, Shane. I feel like I've reached my limits in terms of my abilities. However, talking to you today has been really great. It makes me want to keep trying and do what I can. I sincerely express my gratitude. We exchanged contact information after Shane suggested it. After that, Kyle returned, and we continued the meeting as usual, but my heart felt lighter. Over time, Shane and I grew closer, going out for drinks occasionally. Despite being my junior, he respected me and seemed to restore something like my lost self-esteem. Though our ages were quite different, It felt like I had made a friend for the first time. Then, one day while drinking as usual, Shane said something. "Mr. Anderson, I know this is a big ask, but would it be difficult for you to join our company? I never imagined that someone would make such a request to me." I was utterly baffled. Then Shane explained, "Our company, and no offense to your parent company, but both seem to be prioritizing efficiency at the expense of customer service, almost like a lordly way of doing business. We're not struggling now because of our brand name, but this attitude could eventually be our downfall." Recently, in an internal meeting, we discussed how important it is to engage with customers, as you mentioned the other day. We need to instill this approach in our staff, and so, when I mentioned you, our executives expressed a strong desire to have you on board. If you're willing, we'd like you to join as the head of personnel development. This was an opportunity I never dreamed of. I had always thought my inefficient work style was a negative, but here was a chance to utilize it positively. Despite my anxieties about being up to the task, I thought this might be exactly what I was meant to do. So, I decided to give it a try. I immediately accepted, and within a week, it was official that I was moving to Shane's company. The news spread quickly within the company, but it was perceived as, John was so incompetent that he was demoted to a subsidiary. People looked at me with pity, but I didn't care anymore. I was excited to work with Shane in this new place. That's what I had decided. Before my transfer, a formal farewell party was planned. I knew nobody was really interested in me, and it felt obligatory, but I couldn't just skip it. Shane, feeling apologetic for subtly poaching me, wanted to attend a party as well. Given that the party was being held for me, I couldn't just skip it. Moreover, Shane, having suddenly recruited me, expressed a desire to make a farewell greeting, so I attended a farewell party with him. No one would be shocked by my sudden departure. In fact, they might even be relieved, but Shane probably didn't realize that. To celebrate Sean's transfer, cheers. I thought the toast might have been sarcastic, but I tried not to mind, given it was a farewell party. However, the sarcasm towards me didn't stop during the party. "Without an incompetent junior colleague, I'll be in trouble with less work," joked Kyle. "I'll remember not to be too incompetent, or I might get demoted to a subsidiary," laughed Kevin. Everyone seemed to be using the opportunity to throw jabs and sarcasm more than actually bidding farewell. Initially, Shane laughed along, thinking it was all in jest, but gradually, his expression darkened. I became nervous. I feared Shane might regret recruiting me, knowing how unpopular I was. After Kyle jokingly thanked Shane for taking on their big burden, saying, "It's clear that Shane is a young man with a generous heart and a spirit of volunteerism," Shane, who had been sitting quietly, stood up and responded, "Not at all. It is me who should be thanking you, Kyle, and everyone here, for your spirit of volunteerism." Kyle looked puzzled at his words. Shane continued, "To willingly let go of a person as exceptional as Mr. Anderson, who is outstanding as a human being, requires a generous heart indeed. Thank you very much." This remark surprised everyone, not just me. Everyone at the party, except for Shane, struggled to understand what he meant. A few seconds later, the room was filled with laughter. Everyone thought it was a joke to consider me an exceptional talent. Honestly, I thought the same. But Shane remained serious. Kyle responded with a laugh. "It's funny that you think he's exceptional." Shane, still not breaking his serious demeanor, replied, "I fail to see the humor. If after 15 years of working together, you can't see Mr. Anderson's excellence, that's more amusing to me. Seems like you have blinders on." The room fell silent at this bold statement. Annoyed, Kyle retorted, "Impudent brat from a subsidiary," and the atmosphere soured. Just as I was about to stand up and intervene, Shane said, "Please look forward to seeing what our company will achieve," and with that, we left the party. Afterward, Shane apologized several times for getting heated, but honestly, I was happy. I had never met anyone who stood up for me like that. What's incredible is that Shane followed through on the bold stance he took that day. As the head of personal development, I did everything I could to meet Shane's expectations. I conveyed one simple message: being attentive to clients benefits both them and the company. This philosophy gradually became ingrained in our staff, leading to significant growth in sales. 5 years later, our subsidiary surpassed the parent company I used to work for. Seeing Kyle and others from the parent company now coming to us for training with a look of regret is something I'll never forget. 10 years have passed since then. I'm still working with Shane, as always. I've found fulfillment in my job and learned the joy of being needed by others. At 45, I'm still single, but my life feels much richer compared to 10 years ago. All of this is thanks to Shane, who recognized and leveraged my approach. I plan to continue doing my best here, living my life to the fullest.